Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to Mr. AP. Today we'll be talking about the AP World History FRQ of 2023. So you can see that we are technically allowed to discuss this, whereas we can't really discuss the multiple choice content as stated on their official website due to exam security policies. So we can discuss multiple choice and we can discuss free response from alternate late testing exam. However, we can discuss the free response content from regularly scheduled exam because it's already been 2 days since May 11th, 8 a.m. And that's when I took it. And so they released actually two versions here. I took set 2. I'll get into that a little bit in a second. And so yeah, we're allowed to discuss it, so we're just gonna go ahead and go through the answers, or at least what I put, or what I think the correct answers could be. What I put, you could reflect on my sayings, and then, well, I guess wait up on your score in July, early July, or okay. So I took the set 2. They released 2, and I didn't know there were really 2 versions that were given out, but I didn't really look over set 1. I can do that at the end of this video, but for now, I'll look over set 2, which is what I took. Quick note on the fact that I'm still learning how to use OBS Studio to record my screen, so I did not actually know that my facecam was covering some of the words when I was covering my AP World History FRQs, but hopefully you can pull it up on your own and follow as I go through it. Enjoy. So, I guess we can just start with SAQ here, and I can try to remember what I put or if it's the correct answer. So let's see. Okay, so the first question, the first SAQ was it was this 2-paragraph passage on a historian, late Ottoman period, alternative approaches to modernization, 2007. Okay, so it was a scholarly article. Okay, so you would read the article and then the first part would say identify one 19th century development in the Ottoman Empire that led to the launch of the reform program mentioned in the first paragraph. So the that led to the launch of the reform program. The reform program in question is the Tanzimat, which began in 1839 and sort of began to reform the Ottoman Empire to be more westernized. And so what led to that, if you read the passage, it was sort of okay, let's see, science was seen by yeah, I think it was the okay, modern educated Ottomans and began to emphasize running. Okay, yeah, it was they sort of understood the importance of European science, and so they decided to shape after that, and that's sort of what led to the Tanzimat. I'm kind of forgetting what I put, but I think I put something along those lines. This may not be the right answer though, so do please correct me in the comments, or if you do not agree with whatever I'm saying, because I'm not a teacher, okay? I'm just one of the students, one of the many that took the exam this year. But yeah, that's what I think the development, well, actually the development, not, okay, let's actually just read the first paragraph. Late Ottoman society underwent, because it says in the first paragraph, okay, that's also important because it sort of narrows it down to where the answer could be. So late Ottoman society underwent significant modernization, a process that was both caused and accelerated by the state reorganization program Tanzimat. Beginning in 1839, modern educated Ottomans soon began to emphasize in their writings the importance of European sciences. Science was seen by many officials and learned figures as the only tool to solve problems of the empire. This elite group of westernized Ottoman intellectuals even adopted the belief in the supremacy of science in all aspects of life and proposed to adopt a completely westernized worldview. Okay, so yeah, science is what led to the Tanzimat. They began to see science as a way to sort of rescue their empire from collapsing, despite it eventually crashing in following World War II, I believe. So yeah, late mid 20th century or early 20th century is when it collapsed. But science is what they sort of is what the answer to A is most likely is, because that's what led to the Tanzimat and the Reformation process. Okay, so B, identify one argument made in the passage concerning the Ottoman elites and modernization in the 19th century. So this one was kind of interesting because it is another identify, so it shouldn't be that hard. But concerning the Ottoman elites and modernization. So the argument is, we can read the second paragraph, I guess, so we can put them together. However, this westernized Ottoman elite was not the only group that focused on modern European thought. Extreme views sparked opposition, especially among religious circles, but they also kindled a general curiosity among a new generation of modern Ottoman religious scholars who emphasize an alternative approach toward modernization. These scholars proposed to combine their traditional heritage with modern ideas and methods, and while advocating the adoption of industrialization and political reforms, rejected a cultural identification with the West. Okay, So here they're saying that some opposed, those that were more strongly religious favored. And so the argument made in the passage concerning the Ottoman elites and modernization is that some elites did not favor the modernization process because they were stuck with their, or they stuck strong with their religious beliefs. So I guess that could be the argument. Again, this was a very hard SAQ because it was Ottoman Empire, and it's sort of like testing more your ELA skills, where you have to identify arguments and claims or whatnot. So yeah, this one, feel free to comment again. I mean, I will read through them most likely, but okay. And C is explain how one other non-Western state's attempts to modernize in the 19th century led to conflicts among members of the elite, similar to those described in the passage. For this one, I believe I said Japan. I think I said Japan, and how they sort of began to industrialize about around the same time period. And so you could use another country, perhaps, another non-Western state that attempts to modernize in the 19th century led to conflicts among members of the elite, similar to those described in it. Okay, so some stuck to their religious. So I guess, yeah, Japan could be evident. Could be one example, because some did stuck strong to their Buddhist belief system. So because of that, some were opposing the industrialization and modernization efforts in the country. So I think that's what I put. I put Japan in there and sort of elaborated on it a little bit, because it's been so long and I've been focusing on other stuff. I'm already forgetting my AP World knowledge to a minor extent, but I think that's what I put for C. Moving on to second SAQ. This one was a little bit easier, I would say. It wasn't a long passage. It was a Korean Confucian scholar and advisor to the Korean Joseon monarchy. Not really important. 1424, so it is very early. So, okay. That would be during the Qing dynasty, I believe. Yes, okay. So I'm not going to read it, but identify one claim the author makes in the passage. So in the passage, the author says, okay, when some Buddhists for over that, Buddhism have been spreading in our kingdom, yet neither happiness nor profit has been gained. That is according to historical. Okay. Buddhism, barbaric customs, yeah, because they're people. Okay, so I guess one claim is that Buddhists are sort of diminishing or slowing down the state of Korea, because it's a Korean Confucian scholar, where this is coming from. Because you could see right here, poor, or like they cause people to be poor and steal, so they sort of ruin the social conditions of the country. So that's one claim, I guess. There's a second one. I think there were two claims in this passage. They sit around and eat, so they don't do anything that's visible profit. So they don't contribute anything profitable to the nation, and thus they are an obstacle to the advancing of the country. Okay, B's explain one way the author's point of view likely influenced his argument. Okay, this one was pretty easy. I mean, it was kind of hard to spot, but it was not that hard. So Confucian scholar, because he's a Confucian scholar, he argues against Buddhism. Okay, his central argument is that Buddhism is bad. They're a threat, direct threat right here, Buddhists. The way his point of view is likely influenced his argument is because he's a Confucian scholar, right? And Confucianism doesn't really go with Buddhism. They're two separate religions. And so because of that, his belief system is what actually influenced or sort of emphasized to continue this argument that Buddhism is not really contributive to the society in a positive way. And I guess you would explain that by using because in like 2 to 3 sentences or something. Okay, so C is explain one way the Chinese cultural traditions influenced Asian societies other than Korea in the period 1200 to 1450. Okay, so here you could have used anything. You could have used two, I think I came up with. You could have used Japan, which sort of adapted voluntarily Confucianist thinking back from China, Song Dynasty, I believe. Or you could have used Vietnam. I used Vietnam and how it actually influenced the Vietnamese society to sort of draw away from being centralized on women's freedom, because Vietnam was very like free on whatever women could do, more freedom for the woman. And so, however, once the Chinese influence came, they sort of began to restrict some of those rights and make it more centralized on men dominance, as was a common trend back then in these time periods. Era 1 and Era 2. Okay, so question 3 or 4. I'm kind of curious what you guys went with. For this one, I went with 3. I'm gonna go over both or try to go over 4 because I don't know. Okay, so for 3, I'll start with 3 because that's the one I answered. So this one was pretty easy. Like, identify one technological development that contributed to Europeans' ability to spread religious ideas in the Americas during the period 1450 1750. Era 2. Also, just to note, there's no passage associated with this one. This one should come from your just knowledge, bare knowledge. Okay. I said this one could have multiple ones. Like, you could say like the Latin sail, which helped them sail properly. I said the compass. I just said the compass to help them navigate through the sea in harsh conditions. I don't think you need to elaborate it on too much because it is an identify question, so you could just state it. I did a little bit like elaborate just for the security of my answer. You could also say the sextant or the astrolabe, which were also used for navigational purposes. So any of those answers would have been fine because there were technological developments from Europe that contributed to exploration period. B is explain one way that religion contributed to the process of state expansion and or exploration in the Americas during Era 2. So you could say, okay, I believe I mentioned the 3 Gs, God, glory, and gold. And so, like, one of their purposes for exploration was to spread Christianity to the New World, and they have done that. And so the religion contributed to the process of state expansion because they sort of had a purpose to do that, to sort of they had a purpose to spread Christianity, for which they decided to explore, and so that helped them sort of get inland in the New World and sort of justify their purpose for actually invading a new world with already inhabitants of Native Americans. And so, okay. And then the C is another explain one reason why syncretic belief systems developed in the Americas during the period. Era 2. Okay. And so there you could just say that because some were already there, like you could say Native Americans were there, and then the transatlantic slave trade started back then. So you could say that some religions began to mix and people began to mix and caste systems were modified, and so they developed because Europeans brought Christianity and Native Americans had their beliefs there, and then also Africans, the African diaspora, brought their beliefs from Africa into the New World. And so as all began to mix, there were different groups. There were like the mestizos, zambos, there were the Creoles, Peninsulares. There were different caste systems, and it just shows how you could talk something about along those lines. I think I put something like that, but I could be forgetting. Let me know what you put and if you disagree or agree with me on that. So, okay, let me quickly go over 4. I don't know if I got this right. I didn't even answer it. What am I saying? But yeah, I didn't do this one because it was kind of challenging to me, so I didn't bother. I decided to go with 3. So A, it says identify one historical development that contributed to the growth of global economy during the period circa 1800 1914. One historical development that contributed. You could say like the industrialization, because industrial revolution sort of began around that time, and so one historical development that contributed to the growth of global economy. You could say the what is it, like the Berlin Conference, and how it's not the Berlin Conference that sort of led to the division of Africa and sort of growth of global economy. Okay, this one is challenging, so my bad if I don't know my stuff right now. But it's okay. That contributed to the growth of a global economy. What contribute? I mean, yeah, I guess industrial revolution would be the primary one because it caused more urbanization and it sort of brought people in from rural areas, and yeah, a lot of progress was being done. So you could say industrial revolution, I guess. Historical development around that time, yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but okay. B's explain one way governments responded to economic crises or depressions during the period circa 1900 to 1945. There were numerous, of course. What do we have? We have in United States. It doesn't say. We can use United States. For example, they use the Keynes economy and the deficit spending. If I go look at my notes quickly, yeah, deficit spending is borrow more than you can bring in to kickstart the economy, which was a common strategy during the Great Depression. economic crises or depressions. The Great Depression is what they're referring to. Deficit spending was also evident in Germany following World War One, and also cancellation of reparations. In USSR, the new economic plan was visible. Yeah, and the 5-year plans following Lenin's death. So all those are possible answers, and you could just elaborate on them. C's explain one way states changed their economies in response to the shifting global balance of power during the period circa 1945 to 1990. Okay, so this is following the last question time period. Changed their economies in response to the shifting global balance of power. You could say the collapse of Soviet Union was late 20th century, so you could say how it became more capitalistic and that the communism actually fell, so it sort of transitioned. Their economies changed. Well, okay, the economy did change after yeah. It went from communism to capitalism in Russia as communism collapsed and most countries were separated from it. So that's one example. Another one is the authoritarian rule fell from World War II in Germany and became, I guess, more capitalistic, as did the Western states. So I guess, yeah, you could talk something along those lines. All right, let's get into DBQ. All right, this was an interesting one because I actually suspected it would be like from Unit 3 or somewhere around that time, like the Gunpowder Empires. But it ended up being from like Unit 7, Unit 8, around 1850 to 1950. But I mean, it was interesting. The documents were pretty fascinating. I didn't mind reading them. Evaluate the extent to which Muslim women in Middle East challenged social norms in the period circa 1850 to 1950. Okay, so I'm not gonna read every single document. I got better stuff to do. But here there were 7 documents in total. One of them was a picture. I used 6 because that's what you're required for the rubric. I think I got the HIP points to either list the historical context, intended audience, purpose, or point of view. For 3 of the documents, I think I've done that successfully. After reading the documents, I don't remember which one I did not use, but after reading the documents, I did group them I found patterns in the documents, and I grouped one based on women's. My thesis was basically they significantly challenged social norms in the period 1850 to 1950 in Middle East because they did so in the public life, which is like elections wise or job holdings, and private life, which is where they changed the male dominancy at home environment. And if I can quickly speedrun these documents, let's see. It is the duty of male established, despite he works to hide her ability from the rest of society. How outstanding this evil, they ever nothing from these trinkets by vanity, male authorities behavior. Okay, so this one I think argues about male dominance in a home environment, so this would support the second claim. Then this one is fair and equal treatment. Egyptian law, woman as much as men with complete. Okay, so women over participate in a government. Yeah, I think this one supports the claim 1, how women should be sort of having more power in the public life rather than private. Okay, this one I actually used as a counter argument because this is where grandma says like no women should submit and like practice polygyny. And so yeah, this I used a counter argument, so maybe that'll get me the complexity point. This one is private, actually public life, because they're actually protesting with the men outside. In addition, it says here, organized into certain quarters into important processions. So it shows how they're actually playing a role in public life and managing policy. This is definitely private life. It's a Turkish woman ballroom dancing experience where she challenges male dominancy by dancing with someone else. This definitely public. Oopsie, I should. Okay. Definitely public because polygyny must be forbidden. Alcohol. Yeah. This is definitely public because vote. Yeah, I think this is what gave it away. I think this is what I quoted for my evidence. So the right to vote. So voting here kind of gave it away. I used that to evidence. And I also used this document. I think I used every single document, but that doesn't seem right. I don't think I used one of them. Maybe I didn't use document 2 or 1. I don't think I used one. Um, yeah, this one is like this is also private life because it says like it challenges male dominancy by like saying I'm not submitting to you, I'm more submitting to God. Please understand that He's above us all in our family or whatnot. So this is private life, public life, private life, public life, mm, private counter actually. And this is public, and yeah, so you see how they kind of like split in half over there. So yeah, I think I definitely got like at least 5 out of 7 points. I did have a thesis, I have good context. My context was Tanzimat, which which was actually reminded by one of the SAQs for me. So I was like, oh well, that's nice. Tanzimat just kind of falls in there. Reformation, more women right, kind of led into that. Okay, context, thesis. I used the documents properly. I had my claims organized. Hip. Yeah, I used 6 documents instead of 3. That's 2 points if I elaborated properly. Used my hip. That's 5 points. Complexity wise, I think I may have gotten complexity because I mentioned Malala at the end and how sort of challenges of social norms continued well outside of that time period into like 21st century. Except maybe I won't get that point because I forgot what region it was. It was actually Pakistan. She was a Muslim woman, so it does meet the criteria. But I mean, I kind of elaborated on it a little bit, but hopefully it'll get me. Hopefully the counter argument and that thing will get me like that example will get me the complexity point. And outside evidence, I messed up because I said Iranian Revolution, but I used it incorrectly. What happened was Iranian Revolution was one outside of the time period. It was around 1970s, and 2, it did create theocracy, which I did mention in my thing, but it did not give women higher freedom. Rather, it gave them more restricted because it went with more Islamic beliefs. I didn't use it correctly. I said it gave them a little bit more freedom, which is incorrect. So maybe they'll give me the point, maybe they won't. Most likely they won't. Lastly, the LEQs. I went with number 3 right here. I thought it was pretty easy and interesting because I remembered my people and what happened in those revolutions. So I'll try to go through that one first, and if I remember anything from 2 or 4, I'll try to sort of spit whatever I remember from the course. Okay, so I did one with this one. In the period circa 1750 to 1900, revolutions and independence movements such as the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and Latin American independence movements occurred around the world. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which Enlightenment ideas were the primary cause of one of the revolutions or independence movements other than the American Revolution from the period circa 1750 to 1900. Okay. What did I go with? I went with the Haitian Revolution. I argued for the Haitian Revolution. My thesis was like, okay, the Enlightenment ideas were were moderately the primary cause of one of the Haitian Revolution, because even though the Enlightenment ideas did emphasize them to act and resist the European minority that held the most power there, the French condition around that time is what also sort of allowed for the success of Haitian Revolution. So it was moderately, I didn't say significantly. I did, first claim was like, yes, Enlightenment did do something, but my second paragraph was like, around the same time, Napoleonic Wars and the French debt sort of allowed for the Haitian Revolution to occur in Haiti, because French was in huge debt. Napoleonic Wars, the 7 Years' Wars in 1750s against the British. So yeah, which also why Napoleon sold the Louisiana Purchase to the British, the Midwest of America. So that just more, that just shows more of how Enlightenment wasn't the only thing that led to the revolution. What else? For complexity, I tried to get it. I don't think I did, because it's out of 6 points, the LEQ. I said that, what did I say? I think I elaborated a little bit on how maybe it was part of French's plan to actually allow for Haitian Revolution to occur, because they did then issue an independence tax on the Haiti, but I don't think that's going to give me complexity point. I mean, we hope, but we'll see. All right, the second, fourth, I haven't read these before, so let me quickly. Okay, global cross-cultural interactions, including the transfer of knowledge, scientific learning, and technological developments, increased throughout the period of 1200 to 1750. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which ongoing cross-cultural interactions affected trade and or exploration during the period 1450 to 1750. Okay, ongoing cross-cultural interactions. Okay, this one's kind of hard. ongoing cross-cultural interactions affected trade and or exploration. I don't even know the answer to this one. Go on. I'll say like, yeah, significantly, because ongoing cross-cultural interactions, because like they sort of transferred the knowledge throughout the world and allowed for the development of modern technology, compass, astrolabe, Latin sail, like improvements to the ship design and navigational technology to explore new lands. But this one's kind of interesting. I want to hear what you guys put for number 2 if you did this one. And okay, let's do number 4 quickly. In the 20th century, revolutionary movements were inspired by a variety of ideologies, including communism, nationalism, and religious ideas. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which a 20th century revolutionary movement was inspired by one of these ideologies. Okay. Revolutionary movement. 20th century revolutionary movement. You could talk about independence of various states that were under colonialism. You could talk about the Russian Revolution, which sort of challenged the Tsar supremacy around 1917, I believe, or 1918. So evaluate the extent to which 20 was inspired by one of these. So you could say, okay, the India independence was significantly inspired by nationalism, because why? Because they wanted independence from the British and gain more right. They wanted more independence, right? Like in nationalism, they wanted to be independent as a nation with their own personal beliefs and ideas. More culturally united. 20th century revolutionary movement. It was a revolutionary movement. They eventually, religious ideas. I mean, it would be more national. It could be religious ideas because they wanted to be independent as a Hinduism state rather than controlled by Western Christianity. But yeah, this one's interesting. I don't really feel like forming a thesis right now out of a blank, but yeah, you could talk about revolutionary movement was inspired by. Yeah, that's formation of USSR under communism, independence of African states by nationalism, independence of India by religious ideas. Any of those would work if you use them properly. Or complexity wise, these are kind of hard. LEQ's complexity is much harder than DBQ, I would say. So, but yeah, I think that's it. I actually think that's it. We're done with the AP World History FRQ. What do you guys think of it? I thought it was pretty easy. We can quickly look over the. Let's see here. We can quickly look over free response questions 1. I would say set 2 was kind of easy. DBQ was not that hard. LEQ's not that hard because Toussaint Louverture. I mean, I used for my thesis I used some solid examples. Toussaint Louverture, social contract, enlightenment ideas. I mean, it wasn't that bad. So yeah, SAQs were a little hard on set 2, but let's quickly read through set 1. I mean, same thing. Claim, explain development. Second paragraph, first paragraph. It's sort of more centralized, so I think that should be easier. This is what 2003. That's like what reflecting. Empires. Okay, well, I'm not gonna read all this, but it does look it's a bit longer. Late 14th. Arab scholar, historian, Mamluk dynasty of Egypt. Okay, more identify, explain. Okay, more Islamic world. One reason for the increase in women enslaved people. Explain one increasing number of resulted in social and cultural change. Explain one way the increased demand for slavery affected African populations during the period. Identify one way the environmental conditions contributed to the beginning of industrialization. Okay. So this more environment, I guess. This more cultural and social disruptions during the transatlantic slave trade. I'll probably go 3 because I might remember more regarding that subject. The DBQ, how many documents did they have? They had 7 documents, 1 picture. It wasn't that bad. However, it was on King Empire, led to the collapse of King Empire. So this would be where context would be the rise of the King Empire as the Manchus, I believe. No, collapse of the King Empire. Yeah, the Manchus began the Ming Empire following the King Empire. I don't remember much. Collapse of the King. Yeah, King, then Ming. It was Song Dynasty, then King, then Ming. I believe so. So, yeah. This one isn't interesting. Let me know if you got this one and whether it was hard or not, because these documents do look kind of short. This picture looks interesting. LQ wise, Mongol Empire facilitated trade. Okay, Mongol Empire affected people of Eurasia. You could say like disrupted populations, broke towns that did not submit, etc., etc. Rulers of land-based such as Mughal, the Ottoman, and the Safavid used level to which land-based empire successfully consolidated or expanded. Okay, power expansion. You'd say gunpowders, of course, like weapons, etc. Mid to late 20th, variety above were used to bring about political and social change. Accentuation in an individual group or movement in the mid to late 20th century successfully changing in power structure. Okay, you'd say like what is it? Okay, let's see. Mid to late 20th century, feminism movements for more women rights and maybe other ones. I think so. I actually prefer set 2, to be honest. Okay, I'm gonna end it here. This video has been going on for way too long. Again, this isn't the best video. If you really want to go more in depth in terms of answers, feel free to look at other videos on YouTube or maybe in other like social platforms such as TikTok. I've seen some answers being discussed there, and I don't know, maybe Twitter, Instagram. I don't know where else they put the answers out, but that's just my view. I gave my opinions on these questions. I gave my answers. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe. We should have other videos going out, such as the AP Chemistry FRQ coverage, AP Statistics, and then a special note about AP Seminar, and my co-runner might go over that one with y'all. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.